Good morning, class 8, and welcome to your history class. So, dear students, today we shall discuss lesson number 3, ruling the countryside. So, this chapter is your last chapter that we need to cover as a part of your PT1 syllabus, which is going to begin from the month of July. So, students, today, without much further ado, let us begin with the introduction of this chapter. But before giving you an introduction about this chapter, I would like to give you the objective as to what we will be studying today and why. So, dear students, today we are going to study about a new phase of the British East India Company in our country. Okay, so in this chapter we will try to understand as to how the British East India Company was able to establish political power along with establishing economic power in our country. So let us begin with the very first topic of this chapter. So the first topic that we will cover today is the company becomes the Diwan. So this is not very new to you because already in lesson number 2, that is from trade to territory, you are very well aware that the company in 1765 was given the Diwani of Bengal by the then Mughal emperor, isn't it? So the actual event of appointing the East India Company as the Diwan of Bengal took place in a very small ceremony in the tent where Robert Clive lived, with only a few Englishmen around and also some Indians. But if you see the painting that's shown above, can you see? In this painting, it's clearly shown that giving the Diwani of Bengal to the company was a very big event, because here, instead of showing the tent of Robert Clive, they are showing they are showing the palace of the king, the where in the throne the king is sitting and the emperor is giving the Diwani to Robert Clive. So this painting was perhaps made by the British, and that is why they have tried to give such a painting, they tried to give such an image of India, that India was very happy to give away its power to the British, isn't it? So although actual events took place in Robert Clive's tent, but in the painting above, the event was shown as a majestic occasion. Yes or no? So the painter, actually the truth is, was commissioned by Clive. Robert Clive himself instructed the painter to give such a painting, to draw such a painting where this record would be kept in such a way as if the company was given the Diwani in a very grand manner. Okay, so as Diwan means somebody who has got financial control, financial authority of a territory. So in Bengal, the company became the Diwan. It means that the entire financial and monetary areas were being administered, were being ruled by the company. So it had to think of ruling the land and also organizing as to how they would collect revenue or taxes. So they had to do this collection of revenue and taxes in such a way that they would get enough money to meet the various expenses that the company has. It may be the expense of maintaining the army, it may be the expense of buying products from India, and so on. So it was very necessary that the British now thought of organizing the land, administering it in such a manner so that they can collect revenue very easily. So over the years, the company learned that they had to move very carefully with their step while ruling the country. First of all, they had to be careful because British was an alien power. Alien power means they were people who actually were outsiders, and now that is why they needed to pacify. That means they needed to come in terms with those who were already ruling the countryside, the various regions, isn't it? So the British, in order to establish their proper rule, had to get the support of the rulers of the countryside, of the rural areas, and that is why they tried to come in peace with those rulers, and also they gave them certain authority so that they and the British could work together. Okay, So those who had control over the various resources in the villages before, they were not eliminated entirely by the British. Because the British, they were very cunning. They knew that if the local rulers would not support them, then it would be very, very difficult for getting the authority of that particular territory within the British company. So now let us see how revenue was collected for the company. Remember one thing, students, for doing any work, money is very essential. Now, if you take the example of today also the government collects taxes from us. It may be in the form of a toll tax, it may be in the form of electricity tax, in the form of water tax, but this tax is collected. Why is it collected? It is collected so that the government can run the country efficiently. So even during the British time, collection of revenue was very important. Okay, so let us see what steps were taken by the company for collecting their revenue or the taxes. So you already know that the company was now the Diwan, and that is why it had to rule over the country and have control over the taxes from that land. But even today, even then, the company saw itself primarily as just a trading company. But of course, it wanted regular taxes. It needed regular income. But still, they were unwilling, they were not willing to set up any regular system of collection of revenue. So they did not want to put in more officials into collecting taxes because they already had lots of work to do. So they made an effort to increase the revenue as much as possible so that they can buy cotton and silk cloth as cheaply as possible. So whatever things were taken away from India, especially cotton and silk, to England, they were produced there, and when they were brought back to India, then the value of these goods would be very, very high. It would be doubled. Okay. So before 1865, before they had the Diwani, the company purchased goods in India by bringing gold and silver from Britain. But now they did not need the help of Britain because revenue in Bengal was enough for them to finance for purchasing the goods that they can send to England. Isn't it? So now, since they were having financial control, therefore they did not bring in gold and silver to give in the Indian markets. They would take the money from India and collect the goods from India by giving the Indian people their own money. So because a lot of money was being extracted in Bengal, so the economy of Bengal, the financial condition of Bengal was facing a deep crisis. The economy of Bengal was suffering. So there were many people who were not able to sell their products. The artisans were there, then there were peasants. None of them had enough money so that they can live their livelihood. So agriculture collapsed. And in 1770, because of the collapse of agriculture, there was a terrible famine. Famine is a situation where people do not have enough food to eat. Okay. So in 1770, when there was a terrible famine, it killed 10 million people. And 1/3 of the population was already finished by that time. So just imagine how the Bengal economy was suffering at that time because the company was extracting revenue from them in a very unsystematic manner. So you can see this picture. In this picture, you can see a regular haat, a bazaar that would, that you could see in Bengal. But of course, after the Great Famine, after the economic depression in Bengal, this entire thing were nowhere to be seen. So people who are seen now, they all deserted their areas. So the British, they understood that Indian people are basically agricultural based. They understood that in order to get proper revenue, they need to settle the people first. So that is why Lord Cornwallis, who was the then Governor General of India, he came up with the idea of permanent settlement. So the company officials felt that investing or paying more attention in improving the land and in improving the agriculture would help Bengal to give more and more revenue to the company without much problem. That is why the idea of permanent settlement was introduced in 1793 when Lord Cornwallis was the Governor General of India. So according to the permanent settlement, The Rajas or the rulers, they were recognized as zamindars. Zamindars means the lord of the land, the landlords. So these zamindars, they were given a very important task. The important task that was given to them was to collect rent, collect money from the peasants and pay the revenue to the company. And the amount that was to be paid by the zamindars, it was fixed. That means even after many years, this amount will not change. Okay, so it was felt that this would ensure a regular flow of revenue into the company's coffers, that means the company's lockers, and also it would encourage the zamindars to invest money in improving the land. Okay, but of course, was permanent settlement such an easy solution? Definitely not. There were lots of problems in this. So the permanent settlement created problems, as I told you. The company officials soon discovered that the zamindars were not interested in improving the land. They were given the important task of improving land, of investing in land, but the people were not just bothered about it. And since the revenue was fixed, it was actually fixed at a very high rate. So the zamindars, since they were not doing much to improve the land, agricultural products failed. And since agricultural products failed, that is why they found it very difficult to pay the fixed amount of revenue to the British. So many zamindars, because of their failure in paying the company the needed amount, they had to sell off their land. Okay, so in the first decade of the 19th century, the situation changed. Slowly, the prices in the market, they rose. Cultivation also became good. So later on in the 19th century, when agriculture rose, when cultivation started, then the zamindars also started to get more and more income. But although the zamindars became rich, but still it was not very much, good for the company, because company ultimately had to survive on the fixed and permanent amount of revenue that the zamindar would give the company. So when market expanded, when cultivation became high, the zamindars were collected heavy taxes from the agriculturalists, from the farmers. But of course, the British did not get lots of money because whatever amount was there, it was fixed. So zamindars kept on becoming richer and richer, and the British, they were not profiting much. Okay. So even then, the zamindars did not have an interest in improving the land. Although the zamindars were getting great profit, but still they were not much interested in improving the land. And that is why some even lost their land in earlier years of settlement. And there were many others who saw that there is a possibility of earning without any trouble and risk of investment. Because anyway, the peasants are going to pay money to the zamindars, no matter how much it profited the British company. So this was one case. And on the other hand, the cultivators found the system to be greatly oppressive. The people were exploited. They were exploited because the rent that the farmers paid to the zamindar was very high. Okay, and even the right of owning that land was insecure, because if somebody fails to pay the rent on time, then he had to take a loan from a moneylender, and if he is unable to pay the moneylender back the money that he had taken, then the moneylender would take away the land that where he cultivated since generations. So the idea of permanent settlement was not a bad one, but of course it had its own problems, because of which it did not turn out to be very successful. So that's all for today, dear students. Till now we have discussed about how the Diwani of Bengal was given to the East India Company in 1765. Then we went on to understand as to how the revenue for the company was to be got. And then we went on to study about the system of permanent settlement. And then we discussed about the problems that were being faced at that times in paying proper revenue. So that's all for today, dear students. In the next class, we will begin with how the problem of permanent settlement was solved. So till then, that's all, dear students. I'll be sharing questions with you from this part of the chapter that we discussed. So kindly do those questions neatly in your copy and submit it to me latest by tomorrow. Till then, thank you so much and kindly read line by line whatever I have explained you today from your textbook. Thank you.